There's nothing to wear.
I think whilst keeping it really correct, it was the idea of playing with colour and the personalities, to actually use colour much more than I think is often used in this period, because it was used, and so we did, as probably more as highlights and some accessories than anything. And it's just to work very closely with James, the production designer. We both went away and came up with palettes which actually work so well together almost instantly.
We've all worked very, very closely together to create this homogeneous sort of freed up look.
There was a very different sort of characters, and it was to play with them, to play with the colours. They start obviously in like quite grand circumstances, and eventually end up in quite a small cottage. It was almost, and I guess also Mrs. Dashwood is in mourning throughout, so actually that's quite nice. It created this sort of base colour throughout for the girls to almost play off.
She's the grieving widow, really. Her husband dies right at the beginning, and the girl's dad dies right at the beginning, and we lose everything. We're supposed to inherit something, and we just don't, so we have to go to Devon and live in a little cottage instead of this huge grand house.
So they started quite formal and without colour, and then slowly, as actually they become freer, they start wearing things in different ways. They become quite human about it. They're living in this quite cold cottage, and it's windy and cold outside. Rather than wearing the shawls around the elbows, which is the classic way you see fashion plates or plates of the time, they put them around their neck and they clamp bonnets down, or they take their bonnets off. So it was an idea of just being quite free with the costumes, although actually keeping very much to the costumes of the time. And for the men, it was quite interesting, because again you have quite clear characters. You have sort of Brandon, who's the conformist in a way. He was in India, but he's also a countryman, so he dresses very properly, but with we discover a sort of sense of romance, with his big duster coat, which is very practical, and we used a sort of muffler to wrap around his face when he's sort of galloping from various house to house. So actually we created a sort of romance with him by his practicality almost, whereas Willoughby he's quite a nasty piece of work, but again it's this rather studied romantic attitude. The double waistcoat, it's all very proper, very high cut, and he's more fashionable at the time. He has a very dark coat that sweeps around a bit and creates a sort of drama. And then we have Ferrers, obviously, who wants to become a vicar, and he's slightly softer and more conformist, and just rather a sort of lovely man, really. And maybe a little bit more country than his parents would like him to be, so we tended to put him in rusts and beiges and cords, just to try and reflect a slightly more simple life that he desires, as with Eleanor the same.
Edward Ferrers, how do you do?
Eleanor Dashwood.